Today we will be studying the final chapter of the entire Mishnah Torah Yad HaChazak of the Rambam of Maimonides. Last class we studied the second to last chapter, chapter 11 of the Laws of Kings. And as we mentioned in the previous class, that in some of the versions of the Rambam, the last two chapters of the Laws of Kings, chapters 11 and 12, which are the final chapters of the entire Rambam, of the some 1,000 chapters, are actually titled as Hilchos Melech HaMoshiach, the laws of the Messianic King, or King Mashiach. The first chapter, chapter 11, discusses Melech HaMoshiach himself, identifying him, telling us what needs to happen and what need not happen, what one should expect and what one should not expect. And now we go on to the final chapter, and this one speaks about the Messianic Era, what the world will look like at the time and what it won't necessarily look like, and what the preoccupation and the involvement of the people at the time will be. So we can sort of summarize the two chapters as chapter 11 being the personality of Melech HaMoshiach himself, and chapter 12 the era, the period of Yemois HaMoshiach, the Messianic Era. And let us begin. Perek Shnei Masar, chapter 12. Al Yale al Halev. It should not come up into one's heart, meaning don't entertain the idea. Shebimois HaMoshiach yibatel davar miminhagei shel olam. That in the times of Mashiach, in the days of the Messiah, in the Messianic Era, anything of the normal conduct of the world will become nullified. Oy yiyesham chidush b'maaseh bereishis, or that there's going to be some change, some novelty in what we call maaseh bereishis. Maaseh bereishis, as the Rambam told us in the very beginning, in his first chapters, that is the term used for the natural world as it was created by God in the 6 days of creation. So that's called maaseh bereishis. Literally, it means the act, the deed of the beginning. Bereshis being the first word of the Torah, that in the beginning. So don't think that there's going to be any changes. But rather, the world is going to conduct itself according to its norm. And immediately, the Rambam is immediately pointing out, raising the question, without saying so clearly. It is written in the prophet Isaiah, very famous, chapter 11. V'gar zevim keves, and the wolf will live or dwell with the sheep. V'nomer im gdi yirbatz, and the leopard, if that's how we're going to translate it, with the kid, the baby goat, is going to be together. That surely seems to be a big change in nature. Right now, I don't think that wolves and sheep really get together for social purposes. And likewise, leopards and goats don't really play around together. Says the Rambam, Mashal v'chida. That verse is to be understood allegorically. It's a riddle. Inyan hadavar. And now he explains. Sheyihu Yisrael, that the Jewish people will be yoshvin lavetach. They will dwell securely. Im rishei goyim, with the wicked non-Jews, nations. Hamishulim kazei v'nomer, which are compared to, allegorically, wolf and leopard. Shenemar, and now the Rambam brings a proof text to show us how the Goyim, the nations of the world, are compared to these animals of wolves and leopards. And he quotes a pasuk from Yirmiyah, Jeremiah 5. Ze'ev haraves yishadadem, v'nomer sheiked al areihem. That the wolf is going to rob them, and the leopard is going to diligently be over their cities. So there we see that the nations of the world attacking the Jews are called Ze'ev and Nomer, those two animals. So now let's put the two together. That's the pasuk in Yirmiyah. Go back to the pasuk in Yeshaya, and it says that in the Messianic era that the Ze'ev will be together with the Keves, and the Nomer together with the Gedi. Says the Rambam, it's speaking about the Jewish people living in harmony, in peace, together with the Ze'ev and the Nomer allegorically, the nations of the world. And then the Rambam continues and tells us that everyone is going to return to the true religion or law. And they will not steal nor be destructive. Everybody is going to change their ways. All of the people, including all those that are bad and evil and wicked, all those nations are going to return to the way of truth. Ella, rather, instead of being destructive and evil, yoichlu davar hamutar, they are going to eat or consume that which is permissible, benachas, pleasantly, calmly, im Yisrael, together with the Jewish people. Shenemar, and then the Rambam brings another verse. It's the next verse after the one that says that the wolf will lie with the lamb. The aryeh kabakar yoichal teven, and the lion, just like sheep, will eat straw. In other words, again, it's allegorical. And it's not that the nature of the animals will change, but it means people will change. And it's not called a change in nature because that's the way it's normally supposed to be. And now the Rambam tells us a very general statement. And likewise, all things similar to this, with regards to Mashiach, Heim Mishalim, they are parables. And in the days of the King Mashiach, in the Messianic era, Yivad ala koil, it will become known to all, Leize davar haya mashal, to what thing it was a parable, Uma inyan ramzu vahem, and what idea did they hint to? So right now, we just have to know that in general, all those verses, all of the open and obvious messianic verses, which seem to speak about major changes, miraculous changes amongst the beasts of the world, says the Rambam, don't take it literally. It's written in a riddle form. It's a parable. And each thing is alluding to something. And only then will we actually surely know what every single detail and every single verse and every single prophecy was alluding to. And then we'll be able to look back and say, so that's what that means. Amru Chachamim, the wise men, the sages, the Talmudic sages, stated, Ein bein ha'olam hazeh limoisa Moshiach, ela shibud malchi yes bilavad. There is no difference between this world, the way we know it, the world up until the Messianic era, and the days of Mashiach. No difference except for the subjugation of the kingdoms of the nations. That's all. In other words, the Jewish people, if I could use the word traditionally, are under the jurisdiction, under the power, under the rule of nations. whether it's the Romans, Assyrian Greeks, Egyptians, Babylonians, Persians, whoever. Whatever historically it is, the Jewish people are under the rule of other nations. That's all that's going to change. So there won't really be any more subjugation of nations. The nations, so to say traditionally the biblical 70 nations, will all be nations. Everybody will have their land, their territory, and everything will be peaceful. But as far as changes in the world, laws of physics, no. The Talmud states, the sages in the Talmud state, Ein Bain, there isn't any difference. Don't think that people are going to start having wings and fly. Do people fly? Well, ever since, I guess, the Wright brothers, in the beginning of the 20th century, whenever it was, 1902, whatever. All right, so people can fly. Is that a miracle? Those types of changes. But people will not be able to fly like birds, and so on. It will appear from the simple reading, from the straightforward, simple reading of the words of the prophets as follows. And now the Rambam is going to lay out a scenario or an order of events. That in the beginning of the days of Mashiach, see, it's a process. So in the beginning of the Messianic Era, there will be the war of Gog and Magog. Gog is the name of the king, and the name of his nation is Magog. And you can actually find the name Magog amongst the 70 original nations in the book of Genesis, where it lists the children of Noah and then subsequently the offsprings, the next generations. So one of the three sons of Noah was Yephes. And Yephes had a son named Magog. That nation will have a king whose name, or at least who's referred to here, his title, is Gog. And it's alluded to in the book of Yecheskel, of Ezekiel, where it speaks about this war over Jerusalem. And it appears from there that at the beginning of Yemais HaMashiach there's going to be this war involving this king and this nation, Gog u'Magog. V'shekoydem milchemes Gog u'Magog. But prior to the war of Gog u'Magog, before the war is at the beginning of the Messianic Era, and before that war, Yamoid Navi, a prophet will arise, liyasher Yisrael, to straighten the Jewish people, ulahachin libam, and to prepare their hearts, because we're about to enter the Messianic Era, or this very scary war is about to take place. So the prophet will arise to prepare the Jewish people, basically to repent, to return to God. Shenemar, and the Rambam quotes a verse from Malachi, Hine anoichi sheleach lachem es Eliyav v'gomer, that the prophet is saying in the name of God, behold, I am sending you Elijah, etc. And there it says that he's going to bring back the hearts of the fathers, the sons. And now the Rambam is giving us his very specific ruling, because many things are argued and there are various different opinions amongst the sages themselves. And as the Rambam does through his entire Mishnah Torah, all 14 books, all 1,000 some chapters, he gives us clarity and he gives us the final halachic Jewish law ruling and the verdict. So too here. This is based on a discussion, on an argument, or a seeming argument, I should say, in the Talmud, and this is what the Rambam tells us, straightforward. Ve'einoiva, and this prophet, which is called Elijah, does not arrive, it does not come, loy letame hatoher, not to make impure that which is pure, ve'loy letaher hatome, and not to purify that which is impure. Meaning, if right now, for some reason, we assumed that something is pure, is non-contaminated by Jewish law. But in truth, it isn't. In truth, it's the opposite. His function will not be to come and tell us that, or vice versa. Another thing that he's not going to come to do, he's not coming to disqualify people that are assumed to be proper, fit, kosher. Kosher is a common word. Kosher is not only for food. Kosher basically means fit, proper. So he's not going to be coming in order to take people that right now are assumed to be kosher, and we say, oh, that Jew, yeah, he's a fine, proper Jew. His mother is Jewish, and her mother was Jewish, and her mother was Jewish, and his father is a Jew, and so on. Or the person is a Kohen, or a Levi, a priest, or a Levite. He's not going to come and say, oh, you don't know. Some 15 generations back, here's what happened, and this person is really not kosher. No, that's not what he's coming for. And he's likewise not coming to make kosher those that were presumed and held to be improper, to be non-acceptable. If there's a certain person that we think, oh, that person is actually not a kosher Jew, he's because we think that he comes from such and such a family, whatever, but the truth is, he's all right. He's not coming to set that straight either. So what is he coming for? Ella, rather, lasum shalom ba'olam, to place peace in the world. That is the function of this prophet who is arriving seemingly before the war of the beginning of the Messianic Era, to make peace in the world. Shenemar, for that verse that we quoted, the next verse there says, V'heshiv leiv avos al banim, and he will bring back the heart of fathers on or with, or as the commentators explain, through the sons. Children and parents will come back. Their hearts will be put back together. All too many, I'm sure many of you know firsthand, or at least secondhand, all too many have all sorts of family feuds, disputes, call it internal private politics of families, whatever. Very unfortunate. The world that we know, the world that we live in up until the Messianic Era, has a lot of strife and a lot of discord and a lot of hate on many levels. In families, between parents and children. That's tragic. What is he coming to do, this prophet? To make peace amongst everybody. Now, mind you, that in an essay that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, explains, and there are so many essays, so many talks, where he explains these laws. So in one of those, he explains that the Rambam doesn't say that this prophet, that Elijah, is not going to purify that which we think is impure, or vice versa, or any of those things. That's not the primary function of why he's coming. That's the point that the Rambam is making. His primary mission, the function of Elijah the prophet as the forerunner to Mashiach, is to bring peace, world peace, and peace amongst people and amongst nations and so on. V'yesh min hachachamim, and there are amongst the sages she'oimrim, that say she'koydem biyas HaMashiach yova Eliyahu, that prior to the coming of Mashiach, of the Messiah, Elijah is going to come. The way that the Rambam words it is that it doesn't have to be so. It doesn't have to be that Elijah comes first. But the Rambam is telling us that there are those that say so, that he's going to come before the Messiah. V'chol elu hadvarim, and all of these things that we just mentioned, v'chayetze v'hem, or the like, lo yeda adam eich yihiyu, a person will not know how they will be, ad sheyihiyu, until they actually happen. So you don't know for sure how it's going to unfold. The war of Gog and Magog, the arrival of the prophet, before the Messiah. It's not absolute. It doesn't have to be in that particular sequence. Shedvarim stumin heim eitzel hanavim. For these things are closed, concealed, hidden things by the prophets. So they know a bit, and they reveal what they're told to reveal, but it's concealed. Another point, besides that the prophets have it closed, the sages, the rabbinic tradition, don't have a tradition in these things regarding the particular order, etc., in these details. But rather, all these various opinions that we have throughout the rabbinic literature in our oral tradition, it's all based on the verses, on what each verse mandates, as opposed to most of the oral law where we have tradition, and whether or not we have a verse to match it is almost irrelevant. Here, we don't have a tradition as far as the details of the order of events. And therefore, there are arguments in these things. At any rate, the order of these events happening is not, nor their details are not ikar badas, primary in the Jewish religion. Doesn't matter whether Eliyahu Navi comes before or after or with Mashiach. Doesn't matter. A person should never be too involved in the story part of these things. And he should not elaborate too much on the midrashic, on the story type of these things, the and the like. He should not place them as primary. Because they do not bring one, they don't bring a person to fear God or to love God. And after all, that's the main thing. We have to fear God. We have to love God. Knowing the exact specific details of these details doesn't add to one's love and fear. It may be interesting, and that is the nature of what he's calling divrei hagados. It draws one's heart. People like stories. People like drama. And people have curiosity. So you may be curious, but we have to stick to the goal and the purpose. And likewise, a person should not calculate the dates for when Mashiach is going to come. Amru Chachamim, the sages stated, Tipach rucham shemachashvi akitzim, that may the spirit of those that calculate the date and the deadline for the Messiah to come should bloat, should blow up. It's an expression of not quite a nice, comfortable blessing. Ella, rather, yichake, the individual should wait, v'yamin, and believe, bichlal hadavar, in the general idea, as we explained, referring to the previous chapter. So again, to remind you, in chapter 11, the previous chapter, the Rambam goes into great detail of identifying who Mashiach is. And there he didn't say, oh, it doesn't matter, oh, it could be this, oh, it could be that. No. There he gives us a very clear ruling how to identify and how to know who Mashiach is and who he isn't, and what he must do and what he need not do. And he has to do this, that, and the other. And then there's the first stage, where he calls that Bechezkas Shu Mashiach, as we explained last time. And then there's the final stage, where he's Bivadai. Only here, where he's discussing the development and the process of the Messianic era unfolding, here is where he tells us that it's basically irrelevant. So don't get confused. The Rambam is extremely specific and extremely careful, as always. And don't forget that in the very beginning of the previous chapter, he started off saying that whoever doesn't believe or await impatiently, is the implication there, the coming of the Messiah, is denying not only the prophets, but actually denying Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy, Moses, and the Torah itself, the 5 books of Moses, as he discussed over there. Here he's telling us that the way it's going to unfold, the details of that are basically irrelevant, because we don't know for sure. And you'll find, you make it confused and find all sorts of different opinions. This is going to happen, no, that's going to happen, no, that's going to happen. No. So first of all, what did he tell us clearly? Don't expect miracles. Don't expect a change in the laws of nature. All that's going to happen is peace. That's what he's emphasizing. That's going to be, Shibud Malchiyos is going to change. No more subjugation of the nations. And Eliyahu is going to come to bring peace. And now the Rambam is going to tell. So once we've skipped the beginning stage, which we clearly don't know exactly how it's going to unfold. Now that we've got that out of the way, so to say, Bimei HaMelech HaMashiach, in the days of the Messianic King, Kishetis Mamlachtoi, when his kingdom, his government, will become settled. V'yiskaptzu Elov Kol Yisrael, and all of Israel, all the Jews, will gather to him. So, in a sense, I guess we could use the expression when the dust will settle. So everyone's excited, and this and that, and there are major changes happening in the world, not miraculous, not supernatural, but in a sense, big changes. Okay, and we've gone past the first stage, the initial entering into the Messianic era, and Mashiach is on the scene, and he's accomplishing all the things he needs to do. So now, he's established for himself a proper government, the Davidic kingdom, as the Rambam explained in the previous chapter. All right? All the Jews now gather back to him, because that's one of the things that he accomplishes, is the ingathering of the exiles. So every Jew lives in the land of Israel and accepts and declares his allegiance to this king. At that point, then, Yachasu kulam al piv, everybody, all the people, will become their lineage, their personal family origin, who they really are, based on his mouth, Beruach HaKodesh, with the Holy Spirit, which is a type of a prophecy, Shetanuach Olav, which will rest upon him. So Mashiach, at this point, will have a Ruach HaKodesh, which is someone who has divine insight. Until this point, he need not do that. He needs to be a great leader. And I don't want to repeat everything that the Rambam said in the previous class, But he's got to do all that. He's got to be all that. At this point, now, after all of that was accomplished, he is going to be able, and he will, tell everybody who they are based on Ruach HaKodesh. Shenemar, for the verse states, V'yoshav mitzaref u'metar v'goymer, that he's going to clarify, purify, and so forth. And now the Rambam is telling us what he's going to do. And by the way, at this point, there's no uncertainty. And he may find other opinions, but the Rambam is giving us a clear verdict. In the previous halacha that we just did, the previous law, the previous chapter, the previous paragraph, he says clearly, we don't know the order necessarily. Here, he's back to being the very precise and specific Rambam. And he is telling us how it's going to happen. Uvnei Levi metar tchila. It is the descendants, the members of the Levite family, the tribe of Levi, who he's going to purify first. They're the first ones that he's going to address. V'oimer, and he is going to say, Zeh miyuchas kohen, v'zeh miyuchas Levi. This person is a proper kohen. Now just to remind you, out of the 12 tribes, the third son of Jacob is Levi. Levi is different from all the other tribes, and he's not a regular tribe, and he's usually not counted as one of the tribes in a positive way. And instead, Joseph, the second to youngest, got the gift of having two tribes. So Ephraim and Menashe. So take away Levi, and then Joseph becomes two. The Levites don't have a regular share in the land. The whole tribe of Levi is devoted to serving God in the Beis HaMikdash and the Holy Temple on behalf of all the Jewish people. However, they're divided into two parts. The entire tribe of Levi is divided into two parts. The holier ones are the Kohanim, the priests. They're the ones that actually do the service in the temple. The next level down, which are holier than your regular Jew from the other tribes, but they are, so to say, second class to the Kohanim, are the Leviim, the Levites. And they too assist in the Holy Temple. And it's crucial to know who's a Kohen and who's a Levi. Today we don't know for sure. Today there's certain things, just without getting too sidetracked, but just to give you an idea, there's certain things that the Kohanim do. They do the priestly blessing in the synagogue several times a year, and in the land of Israel, in many places they do it every day, which is the ideal way to do it. They get honor by being the first one to be called up to the reading of the Torah. Every time we read the Torah, whether it's Shabbos morning or afternoon or Mondays or Thursdays, the first person honored is the Kohen, and other such things. But we don't give them any of the, I shouldn't say any, we generally don't give them the priestly gifts that they would get, because we're not certain. And the same thing the Levites. Mashiach is going to say exactly this person is a Kohen and this person is a Levi. V'doiche es sheina miyuchasin liYisrael. And those that are not truly proper Kohanim or Leviim, they're mistakenly Kohanim or Leviim, somehow they got mixed in or they fell through the cracks and they got upgraded mistakenly, he's going to push them away to be a regular Jew. Regular Jew from a different tribe. Harei Oimer, behold, he says, this is in the book of Ezra, Vayemer atirshasalav v'goymer hadamoid kain l'urim u'lasumim. And it's a term referring to the prophet. And he said to them that until the Kohen, the high priest, with the Urim v'Tumim, with the breastplate, which had all the stones of each tribe and had in it the piece of parchment with God's holy name inside. Until then, and at that point, we will know. Hine lomadta. So behold, you have learned sheberuach hakodesh miyachasin hamuchzakin, that it was with ruach hakodesh, with this divine spirit, that those that are koyanim or levim are to be declared. Umaydiyan amiyuchas, and we are informed of the person who is in fact the proper kohen or levi, etc. Ve'einay miyachis Yisrael, and then Mashiach does not tell us the proper lineage of the Jewish people, of the rest of the Jews, el l'shivteim, just to the tribes. He'll just tell us to which tribe everyone belongs. Are you from the tribe of Reuven, or are you from the tribe of Shimon? Are you from the tribe of Judah, etc.? Shemoidia, that he informs, he lets be known, shezem mishevet ploini, v'zem mishevet ploini, that this person is from this tribe and this person is from this tribe. Avol einoi oimer, al shem becheskas kashrus. What he will not do is those people that are believed to be, properly believed by the Jewish court system and by the proper tradition of Jewish law, to be kosher Jews. Ze mamzer. This person is a mamzer. V'ze eved, and this person is an eved. Mamzer and eved are two very specific legal terms. Mamzer would be translated as bastard, but I don't think that does justice, because a mamzer is a very particular legal status. Basically, a mamzer is someone who is Jewish because their mother is Jewish, and they are a product of not just an illegitimate, that's too open-ended or too general. They are a product of a union that this person's father and mother had, which was a capital sin. For example, a brother and a sister that had a child. That child is a mamzer. A parent and a child that had a child. Father and daughter, mother and son. That's a mamzer. If the woman was married at the time to someone else, she's a married woman, and her husband did not yet die or did not yet give her the divorce document, and then she had a child with someone else, that child is a mamzer. A child out of wedlock is not a mamzer. So it's a child whose father is not Jewish and the mother is Jewish is not a mamzer. So mamzer is a very specific legal term, and the mamzer is 100% Jewish. However, it's unfortunate, but very, very limited. The mamzer, for example, is not allowed to marry any regular Jew, can't join the community by marrying a Jew. Surely can't marry a non-Jew because they're Jewish, and can't marry a regular Jew because they're a mamzer. And an eved is a slave, which, again, it's an eved Kanani, whenever we say eved, unless we specify. And the eved Kanani is, again, not able to marry a regular Jew because he's not really Jewish. He's like gone through a partial situation. And these things are hereditary. If a person is a mamzer, it has no end. And it continues down, that person's child and that person's child, and it goes all the way down, no end. So, it's very possible that you have Jews that are believed to be 100% kosher, come from wonderful families, from law-abiding, observant, religious parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. It's possible that, theoretically, God forbid, many generations back, all you have to have was one mistake, or one, for example, doesn't even have to be that a person had bad intention, or at least not the mother. If a woman is married to a Jewish man. A Jewish woman is married to a Jewish man. And if that Jewish woman was raped by someone, by anybody other than her husband, and then she conceived from that act and became pregnant and gave birth, that child is a mamzer. Now, if that happened some 20 or 30 generations back, and somehow it was kept quiet, or was not known, or she may have not even known, she thought it was from her husband, whatever. So, in truth, in a way that only God knows, that child is a mamzer, and therefore when that child married a regular, fine, kosher Jewish woman, their children are mamzerim, and the horrific thought of it continuing like that. And it could very possibly be that you have many Jews walking around that think that they're not mamzerim, and in fact are. They're presumed now to be kosher Jews. Well, the good news is, Mashiach will not disqualify them, and he will not, quote unquote, reveal the real truth. Why not? I thought in times of Mashiach, everything is going to be not just perfect, but true and real. Because we have a law in the Torah. There is a rule that a family that got mixed in, that mixture holds. It's valid. You're not allowed to do it in the first place, and if it's really known, there's many details. But otherwise, a mixture that got mixed in, it is kosher. And that's it. That's the fact. It's not exactly like this. I'm going to use an example which is not really a perfect example, but just to get the idea. You may be aware that in laws of kosher when it comes to food, so you're not allowed to mix any type of meat. A Jew can't mix meat and milk. Kosher meat with kosher milk is forbidden to eat together. Can't cook it together. Many, many details about that. What happens if there is a big pot of stew, meat, cooking, over the fire, meat, and somehow, accidentally, a little bit of milk fell in. What happens? So there are laws, and in certain cases, the milk is considered to become non-existent, and that mixture is kosher. It's meat, it's kosher meat, and we say there's no milk there. That milk became diluted, dissolved. I'm not going into the details. By Jewish law, that food is kosher and that meat is meat. And it's not a mixture of milk and meat, even though physically some milk went into that pot. No. So, sort of in a similar vein, if there's a family that somehow, like the scenario that I made up, a mamzer or an eved got mixed in and it's not known and it just went ahead, and there's a kosher family which somehow has in it at least one line of disqualified, inappropriate, someone who's not allowed to marry in, that Mashiach will not reveal. So basically Mashiach is going to tell the tribe of Levi, who's a Kohen, who's a Levi, because right now some of the Kohanim are really only Leviim, and some of the Leviim are actually Kohanim. He'll set it straight. And those that are neither, he'll push them out to the regular tribe, and then the next thing he does is he tells everyone which tribe they're from. And now says the Rambam, the sages and the prophets did not desire the times of Mashiach for the following reasons. Not in order for them to govern and rule over the whole world. Yes, Mashiach is going to come, so finally we Jews are going to be on... No, that's not why they're longing and desiring for the coming of Mashiach. And not in order to rule over the nations, to force them or oppress them even. Nope. And not in order for the nations to uplift and praise or exalt the Jewish people. No, that's not why. And not in order to eat, drink, and be merry. All of those things are not the reason why the Jewish sages, the rabbis, and the prophets longed for Mashiach. All throughout history, the Jewish people, especially the sages and the prophets, longed for Mashiach. Impatiently hoped and waited for Mashiach. Not for the above reasons. Ella, rather, here's the sole reason. Kidei, in order. Sheyufnuyin batera v'chachmasa. In order for them to be free in Torah and in its wisdom. To be able to totally, completely devote ourselves to the study of God's word, of God's law, of the Torah, and its wisdom. And they won't have anyone on any level who will be oppressing or deterring them from this. They won't have any types of challenges or obstacles, any interruptions. And then the reason for this is so that they may merit the life in the world to come. As the Rambam actually elaborated on this point more in the laws of Teshuvah, the laws of returning, of a person returning from sinning. So there he speaks all about Mashiach, and he explains there, which he's alluding to here, that in the times of Mashiach, no more problems as far as nations bothering us, no more decrees, no more headaches of that, and we're able to completely devote ourselves to the study of Torah and thereby merit the life in the world to come. And now, the very final and the very last halacha, the last ruling, the last law in the entire Rambam, in the entire Torah, because the Rambam includes all of the commandments, all 613, plus the 7 rabbinic laws, plus the 7 Noachide laws. Everything. Here's the last halacha. This is how he completes and concludes all of Judaism, the purpose, the goal of the whole thing. And in that time, the Messianic era that he's talking about, lo yesham, there will not be there, lo yira'av, no famine, v'lo milchama, no war, v'lo kina v'sacharus, and no jealousy or competition, negative type of race. Shehateva tiyeh mushpas harbe. And the reason is because the goodness will be in an abundance, will be flowing in an abundance. V'chol hamadanim mitzuyin ke'afar. And all of the delicacies are going to be found like dust. So there's going to be so much plenty of good. And again, he said that there won't be any change in nature or any miracles. So one thing is, this doesn't have to be in a miraculous way, as we know today. The world is able to produce things, and especially with technology today, just like we gave the example before, we can fly, even though we don't have wings on our bodies and we don't fly like birds, but we can fly. The same thing. We can produce amazing things, and it's not technically called a miracle. In the world of medicine, in the world of nutrition, of science, of agriculture, all these developments. So therefore, in the times of Mashiach, the good, the delicacies will be plenty, like the dust of the earth. Or alternatively, Another point that the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach makes here is that the Rambam is hinting, without spelling it out clearly, hinting to the later era in the Messianic era, where then there will be changes in nature. Their miracles will happen. What he said beforehand was what we need to know nowadays or as we enter the Messianic era. But the truth is that of course there are going to be miracles. For example, the 13th principle of faith, the way that the Rambam delineates the 13 principles of faith. Number 12 is the coming of the Messiah. Number 13 is the resurrection of the dead. That's miraculous. That's going to happen in the later stage. So too, it's very, very possible that the later stage, there will be all of these amazing things in a miraculous way. It doesn't contradict what he said at the beginning. And the preoccupation, the involvement, the business of the entire world will not be in anything ella, only Ladas es Hashem bilvad. To know, but it's not just knowledge, but it's an experience, it's a connection. To know God solely, that is it, that's all. And again, here too, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach points out that the implication is very clear. The Rambam is implying that the nations of the world, the non-Jewish world as well, not just the Jews, they will be preoccupied with one thing and one thing only, pursuing the knowledge of God. That's what the whole world is going to be doing. Billions of people. And the proof is, because now he continues, and the next thing he says, Ulefichach, and therefore, Yihiyu Yisrael Chachamim Gedolim. Therefore, the Jewish people are going to be great wise sages. The Yedim Dvarim Asasumim, and they will know concealed, hidden things. Meaning the first statement that the whole world will be involved in then pursuing the knowledge of God. And then he says, and therefore the Jews, meaning there's going to be something extra, something more special about the Jewish people. But the first part is not talking about the Jews. So the entire world, every human being, the human race, the whole world, will be solely preoccupied with pursuing the knowledge of God. And the Jewish people are going to be very great wise sages. And they're going to know secrets. V'yasigu das bayram, and they, the Jews, are going to grasp, are going to comprehend the knowledge of their Creator, kifikayach ha'adam, according to the ability of man. And here too, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach points out in a number of places that we're not trying to minimize it by saying that it's according to the ability of man, but rather to increase it, that it'll be according to the person's complete ability, because generally speaking, we don't use all of our strengths and soul powers, as you can surely find out. They say it's very scary to find out what percentage of the brain we actually do use. Here, when it's going to be a perfect world, at that time, everybody is going to work to 100% of their potential. Shenemar, as the verse says, and this is the concluding verse, the proof text to what the Rambam just said. He's bringing a pasuk again from the famous prophecy of Yeshaya 11, Isaiah 11. Ki mala haaretz deyos Hashem, for the earth, the world, is filled with the knowledge of God, kamayim layom echasim, like the water covers over the ocean or the ocean bed. Notice all you see is water. And there are many, many explanations. There are many, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the class, there are so many talks where the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach explains every detail over here. And really, really, when you look at the volumes that he speaks about Mashiach and about these two chapters, you kind of get a feeling that he is actually the one, as we spoke about last time, he clearly is the Mashiach, but you see that not only in a direct way, not only because he fulfills what the Rambam says, but even indirectly with his, I don't want to, God forbid, be disrespectful, but with his almost obsession with Mashiach, with the coming of Mashiach, with the Messianic era. And he explains all of these things over here. We basically only read and explained what the Rambam says. There are volumes of explanations from the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, about the Rambam and what it means and how it applies. And just one point, very briefly. When you take a look from the outside, and you look at the ocean, you look at the sea, pretty much all you see is water. Lots and lots of water, miles and miles of water. That's all you see. What's underneath? There's a whole world, the sea world. The Talmud says that whatever we have on dry land exists. There's a counterpart, exists in the sea. But we don't see it. It's all covered. You don't even see the ocean bed. You don't know if it's just 3 feet deep or 300 miles deep. You don't know. You just see the surface, water. That's how the world is going to be covered with the knowledge of God. Right now, all we see is physical world. We don't see God, certainly not with the physical eye. With the mind's eye, if you train yourself properly, etc. Then, all we're going to see is godliness. Same physical world as we have now, but all we're going to see, just like when you look at the water, at the ocean, at the sea, all you see is water. So too we're going to see God. There's much, much more to say about that. But the good news is that we have already entered the Messianic era. As of the secular year of 1991, the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach pointed out and explained to us that we've now entered the Messianic era. So we're at the beginning of that stage, and we're at the beginning. We see the fulfillment of these things as he explains in great detail. And what we need to hope and pray and demand is that it come to its full, complete redemption, and we get to the total redemption and the full, complete revelation of the Messiah, of the Messianic era, of God himself, immediately now. Thank you.